Hello friends, this is Worm, and it's time for another episode of the Perk Forge series where we talk about Destiny 2 weapon perks that need a little bit of help because they're just not really that good, or maybe they're not that useful, so on and so forth. And today we got Elemental Capacitor on the menu, and Elemental Capacitor is a really neat perk because it actually changes your weapon stats based on the damage type of your equipped super. So let's talk about what it does. Specifically for Solar, you get an increase to your reload speed. For Arc, you get increases to the weapon's handling, sorry. For Void, you get an increase to the weapon stability. For Stasis, it will moderately control your recoil and increase your movement speed while aiming down sights with the weapon. And for Strand, it just increases that weapon's airborne effectiveness, which all of these are pretty hefty buffs, especially that Void one there. And the Solar one, you know, plus 50 reload speed just for having a Solar subclass equipped. Pretty good. Also in PvP, you know, Void plus 20 stability is also really good. I think on Solar I said plus 50 stability. I meant plus 50 reload speed in PvE is pretty good. The problem that I see with this perk is that it is matched to your subclass. And if you are, say, a Titan and you want a massive reload speed benefit, but Arc is not, or I'm sorry, not Arc, Solar is not necessarily the best subclass to use. Or maybe you're a hunter and you really want to use an Arc super, you want to use Gathering Storm, for example, but handling on a weapon isn't that impactful in PvE activities, and you'd rather have like Solar for reload speed, or of course if you're using Stasis or Strand, neither of these benefits are really that impactful inside PvE content anyways. So I had a couple of ideas to change this, and it's going to require basically a full rework of the perk. Now, the perk currently it lends itself to being almost a subclass synergizing perk. You know, it ties itself into the subclass. I don't know if I really like this, and the reason why is because the reason we just talked about. You know, if I'm on Arc and I want a reload speed buff, or you know, if I'm on Solar and I would rather have stability or something like that, like different encounters are going to have different subclasses that you're going to use, different, you know, abilities. You know, maybe it's a raid encounter where you need big quick damage. You know, and so for Titan, you want to be using Twilight Arsenal, but you really like the reload speed. Like that's the primary problem with the perk, and I think that there's a way that we can work around this, but it would require a lot of work and effort to be put into the perk to actually revamp it. So let's strip it of all of its base stuff here and talk about what we can do to start with. And for starters, I think similar to Lone Wolf, which is a new perk that was just added this episode, this perk should give you a base stat increase to all of these benefits that you get. Okay, and obviously not like plus 50 reload speed, plus 50 handling, just flat applied all the time, but instead like maybe plus 10 reload speed, plus 10 handling, plus 5 stability, plus 5 airborne effectiveness, and then of course plus 5 recoil direction control, and plus 5% reduced ADS movement speed. Like just give that flat to the weapon, no requirements. Like as long as you have Elemental Capacitor on, you will get a flat bump to basically all of your weapon stats, almost like it was an adept weapon. But depending on the super that you have equipped, that's when you'll get those major increases. Okay, just like with Lone Wolf gives you plus 10 to your aim assistance and plus 10 to your something else, I don't remember. But then once you're by yourself, once you're no longer, you know, near your allies, it bumps it up to 20, which makes Lone Wolf a very, very good perk. And I think Elemental Capacitor could be done the same way. You get a plus bonus, you know, you get a benefit to all your stats, but depending on your super, you get more of a stat. Now, I think that would help slightly, but I also feel like we could actually take it a step further and really like do some custom tuning with this perk. And the way that I would go about doing that is increasing these stats based on the number of damage types that you actually have equipped to your character, which I know that's a lot to like take in and process, but let me break it down here. For example, let's say that I am on a Solar subclass. I'm on a Solar subclass, which means my super is Solar, my grenade is Solar, my melee is Solar, and then I have let's say I have a Solar auto rifle. My kinetic weapon is the one that has Elemental Capacitor. It's Peace of Mind. You know, that's the pulse rifle I'm using, Peace of Mind, because it can get Elemental Capacitor. But my energy weapon is a Solar weapon, and then my exotic is also a Solar weapon. So because I have, let's see here, super, grenade, melee, energy, kinetic, or heavy slot, because I have 5. There you go. Because I have 5 Solar, you know, pieces of equipment equipped, like I will get that plus 50 handling speed, plus the other benefits to the other stats. But if I were to switch over to stasis, you know, a stasis subclass, again, you got stasis super, stasis melee, stasis grenade, and then I applied stasis, you know, a couple stasis weapons, then I could bump elemental capacitor up to, you know, that plus 20 recoil direction, you know, plus 20 movement speed, because for each piece of my subclass of those 5 aspects, the super, the melee, the grenade, the energy or kinetic slot, and then the heavy, there's 5 of those in total. Each one would grant me plus, you know, if it's solar, plus 10 to my reload speed. If it's arc, it would grant me plus 10 to my handling for each one that we have equipped. This way, it could also synergize quite well with stasis. Okay, let's say you're using a prismatic loadout. Sorry, let's say you're using prismatic. Okay, and you have a weapon that's at, like, let's just say 95 recoil direction. So you want to get it to 100, but you don't want to fully commit to, you know, like putting in all this other stuff, blah, blah. So what you can do is you can equip elemental capacitor to the weapon, and then just put on a stasis grenade. You can still use your solar super, you can use your solar melee, or you can use a, you know, stasis heavy slot weapon or something like that. You know, then it will give you just plus 5 to your recoil direction. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the, like, which one provides each that, your recoil direction and stuff like that. I think that would be a really neat way to put it, because then you could build craft to your liking. You know, let's say you have just a kinetic weapon that has elemental capacitor, and you want, you know, a mixture of handling and stability. Well, you could go into your prismatic subclass. You could put on void super, you could put on void grenade, but then you could put on arc melee, and then an arc heavy weapon, and then you get like kind of a middle ground boost to each of these stats. I think that'd be a really cool way to rework elemental capacitor. I think that the primary issue with that would be that it would just be really number one, it'd be confusing for newer players, like, because how do you put that in the description, like, increases stats based on the number of elemental damage types that you have in your like I don't even know how you'd word that, but I think it really would be an awesome way to rework the weapon and allow you, again, to really customize your stats to your particular liking. If you really like a weapon and you want it to have more airborne effectiveness, put on a strand subclass, put on a strand heavy weapon, put on a strand you know, primary weapon, whatever it is, you know, to benefit that airborne effectiveness even more. And I would go a step further and say if the, like, let's say it's a strand weapon that has an elemental capacitor, it just gets a flat +5 bonus to its airborne effectiveness just because it's strand. Then you could use a strand heavy, a strand primary, your strand super, strand melee, strand grenade, and that would give you, you know, your +20, maybe even +25 airborne effectiveness, because you are using oh no, it's still +20. I don't think we should go above the stats that we have listed here, but I don't know. This seems to me like a really confusing perk. I'm hoping I hope that I'm able to convey this the way I'm thinking of in my head. I might put some graphics in the video, but like I just think that having a variety of different, you know, with prismatic, having a variety of different melees and just damage types built into your subclass can grant you differing stats. That way you can really customize and tweak your weapons appropriately if you want to use prismatic. Of course, if you're building into stasis, then you can really build into that recoil direction and that 20% reduced ADS movement speed. Or if you're building into solar, you can build into reload and stuff like that. But I think that would be a really cool perk. But of course, I want to hear your thoughts on elemental capacitor. That's the way I would personally rework it. I don't see how else you could rework it to make it better. But of course, if you have ideas, leave them down in the comments, because I really like to read your comments. But that's elemental capacitor. That's what I would do to it. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think that it's pretty good. I think that sounds pretty good. But yeah, do me a favor, like the video, helps the channel a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, conversations, debates, discussions, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's it for me. Do me another favor, like watch the videos you see on the end screen here, because for whatever reason YouTube thinks you'll like them, guys. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye for now.